and printing those and archiving them digitally. So he said, by all means, use 3 of them if you like. If you use 4, you have to pay me for one. My school district in Nashville, Tennessee has committed to never purchasing another student desk. Tables, chairs, yes. Student desks where we can put them in rows, not at all. We're the 42nd largest school district, public school district in the nation. And that doesn't sound very big, does it? Well, when you realize there are 13,588 school districts, I'm going to go over here for a while. The slice of the pie that comprises schools that are larger than our school district is pretty small. Okay? I think you can see it. So we're big. We have currently like 87,000 students and teachers to match. So what's this? What am I going to say about worksheets? I don't have to say it, do I? Not to this group anyway. But there are plenty of your fellow teachers out there who didn't attend today that you could model how to teach without these guys. There's a place for them sometimes, and I'll show you where there's a place for them. At least one example in just a minute. After 4 years of teaching, Miss Smith snapped and joined the circus. So, welcome to your challenges. Who could have guessed that that would have been the first one? There's a place for testing. There's certainly a place for formative testing and its use, and using the data from formative testing to guide individualized instruction. But to have it drive everything that goes on in the classroom, geez, why? It's come to my attention recently that there are a number of conversations going on about changing this at sort of high public level. So watch for those and by all means join them. We can make a change. Another challenge, legislative bodies. The bean counters have to count the beans, it's their job. They have to apportion the beans in some way that they can be held accountable for. I sympathize with them. But using standardized testing and the scores to evaluate teachers for the purpose of retention, for the purpose of promotion, in any way, especially when the tragic flaw is, of course, you have a different cohort of children every year. So it doesn't translate into the counting of beans. I think people in high places are beginning to recognize that. David Warlick, a friend of mine and a mentor, and an idol. How many people know David Warlick or know of his work? Good, a few hands in the house. Just Google him and follow him and read what he has to say. He was saying this stuff about standardized testing 2 decades ago. And something I heard him say in a presentation was that students are forced into school and held as prisoners for crimes they did not commit. So that's one of your challenges, is engaging your students enough to make them not feel that way. The biggest issue in the country, of course, is income inequality, and both parties are now talking about that. That's amazing. I don't know where it's going. I don't have a solution for it. I don't like putting up a problem without some sort of suggestion for solution, but it's there, and if you can add your voice to it, you know, the fact that 99% of the wealth, the new wealth of the country, went to 1% of the population since 2008 is just not right. And it boils down to challenges in the individual level for every student. And finally, my apologies to any legislators in the room, media people in the room, county parents in the room. I hope you don't fall into this category. But it's becoming an increasingly prevalent cultural mindset, and it pays lip service you're teachers. You're all good teachers. You're saints. But teachers in my school district have not had a cost of living increase in 5 years. I don't know what it's like here. I'd like to hear that from y'all, but we need that. We need to be recognized, and we need to be appreciated, not just with lip service. And we need to be trusted to do the work. That's the source of all the standardized testing for the bean counters. They admire you, but they don't really trust you. So, don't forget to tweet. I'm seeing some tweets up there. Thanks, Coach Geek. Who are you? Where are you? Coach Geek. I don't have my reading. Hello, Coach Kirk.
All right.
Thanks for tweeting. And we got more coming up.
By the end of the day, I'll be Coach Keith.
Okay. No, I'm Coach Kirk. So, what does its dwelling in the future look like? Maybe it's virtual learning environments. Andy alluded to that. They're being used, and I'm doing, by the way, a noon session where I'll share at least 4, maybe 5 if we have time, best uses of this at both post-secondary and elementary levels. And I'd love to have you there for that. I have 3 copies of my novel to give as lower prices. So, shameless plug. This is University of New England. Does anybody know where that is? It's in New England. But it's in New England and New South Wales. And they've got a virtual learning space in here and at Second Life, and it has floors and walls and ceilings, and the avatar standing there maybe anywhere in the world, but they feel like they're together. That's the magic of virtual learning environments. So I'm not a big fan of roofs, ceilings in virtual worlds. So here's what I'm building out. I'll actually take you into this in my session. It's the classrooms are those little circular translucent spheres, and you have to, well, you can teleport to them. I've got a little map, but you have to fly to them too. So that's kind of a fun start to the school day. I teach in a setting where my students don't physically go to one another. And so we've been searching for ways to do it. We get people together in Blackboard Collaborate, and we get people together in Skype, Google Hangouts. But this looks like a richer experience for students, and we're just now rolling it out. I've been working on it for about a year. Maybe it's augmented reality. Anybody using augmented reality in their classroom? Couple of hands. A few, I saw that go on. Okay. Next year, I believe that many more hands will be going up because there are things available like, let's go down to this, on purpose. Anybody ever see Imaginality.com? So these little paddles, I brought them to show you, can be programmed and scripted to respond to the webcam with animated 3-dimensional objects. This is one that's a solar system module, and I want to call your attention to the fact that it didn't work this time with Jupiter and Saturn. But the next example, I'm going to bring the sun up and show you that the relative, when 2 planets or objects are placed side by side, yeah, there you go. It shows you the relative size. So maybe it's also...
Look around. Technology is all around us. We use it in every aspect of our lives. It enables us to do amazing things. But what if we could go further? What if we could go beyond the screen? Where your digital world is blended with your real world.
It's coming.
Now we can. This is the world with holograms.
We technology.
What will they enable us to do? New ways to visualize our work.
I have an idea for the fuel tank.
New ways to share ideas with each other.
How are things going your end?
I just put the images in OneDrive.
Perfect.
More immersive ways to play.
Who's got kids in Minecraft?
New ways to teach and learn.
So put the new trap into place of the old one.
Now
And tighten here and here.
New ways to collaborate and explore the places we've never been.
Look at this formation. Let's take a closer look.
Let's do it.
And new ways to create the things we imagine. Because when you change the way you see the world, you can change the world you see. This is Microsoft HoloLens.
HoloLens. And it's coming. Anybody's eyes get as big as mine? Actually, I have small eyes. Maybe it's MNPS Virtual School. I'm going to share with you 10 best practices that we have developed in our brutal course of trial and error and trying things and learning from our mistakes. And we'll get to that in a second. First, I want to call your attention to the unacknowledged design flaw in American education. What is it? Anybody know? 1994 study commissioned by the government. The school day. So we have made some progress in overcoming that for our students. Our students at MNPS Virtual School never have to set foot in the school, except for mandatory support when needed. And we will lock them out of their courses to get them to come, if need be. And proctored testing, which is required. The final exams must be taken in a proctored, very strict, very rigid proctored setting, mostly to prove that it's not Uncle Clyde who's doing the work. We have other ways to do that, including the DBA's discussion-based assessments that we hold at the end of every module, where I might call my 7th grade world history kids and ask them, what struck you most about the ancient Indian empires, and see what they have to say. And they can use their notes in those, because I don't believe in regurgitating in school. But we've made some progress here. Prisoners of Time, Google that, and also this slideshow will be in SlideShare and or Dropbox by the end of the day. So all these references and resources will be available to you that way. So is this? That's what my son looked like. His last junior year at an arts magnet, actually. He had 4 English teachers in the course of a semester. 3 of them cared. 1 of them was competent. And it's just the way, the luck of the draw. He'd never failed anything. And that semester he failed 4 of his classes. So I pulled him over to MNPS Virtual School and graduated him early, because that's possible. So is that sort of situation preparing our students for work not yet imagined? My job as VE teacher, as early as 2 decades ago, was not imagined. You probably have seen this cartoon.
For a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree.
And that's standardized testing for you. All kids do not test well. Duh! Life paths are not guaranteed to be linear, so standardized education is not guaranteed to really be supportive for students. And I'm going to give you an example here, and I'm going to use myself, because that's the fair thing to do. And also because this is really the only narcissistic part of the presentation, so hang in there with me. I'm going to take you in 2 minutes and 37 seconds through 40 slides. You ready for this? Okay. This is my high school annual, senior picture. This is me. College at University of Tennessee, Knoxville. Shelving books for a living at UT Undergraduate Library. Poet. Super supervised the library associate at University of Tennessee Libraries. I have to talk fast. Off to Alaska for summer. I drew this. 6 years in Alaska. Songwriter. Liquor store, bookstore clerk while playing music as solo folk singer, duo folk group, another duo, and the last frontier band. Actor, Alaska Repertory Theater, that's me in tights. Los Gatos, California, public library while playing music at the Old Town Wine Cellar. Assistant cruise director, entertainer, Royal Caribbean Cruise Line. Christmas novelty album and single. Actor, every 60-day movie, Living Proof. A month of daily cruises to the Bahamas, 4 cents a day, 7 days a week. TGI Fridays, Master Bartender, Nashville, Tennessee, traveling Master Bartender, TGI Fridays, Georgia, Florida, the Carolinas, Virginia, DC, novelist. Head bartender, TGI Fridays, North Carolina, Florida, cold call sales for legal professional dedicated word processors. Bartender, Williams Island, North Miami Beach, Florida. Head bartender, Williams Island. Manager, Williams Island Tennis Club Restaurant. Husband, everybody go, aww. General manager of Slice of Life Restaurant in Bakery, Nashville, Tennessee. Father, she's getting married in 2 weeks. Assistant manager, Ruby Tuesday, 3 locations in Nashville, Tennessee. Student, Peabody College, Nashville University, Vanderbilt University. 4th grade teacher, Dodson Elementary School. 3rd grade teacher, University School of Nashville. Teacher in residence, Vanderbilt University Center for Science Outreach. Podcaster, 84 episodes of Snacks for the Brain. Blogger, America.net, Partner Movers LLC, Medical Training Simulations, ISTE presenter. I think that is from 2007. Father. Lower School Technology Coordinator, University School of Nashville, to where I am today. I think I talk faster than I usually do in road trips here. V-Lead teacher, V-Learning support specialist, academy coach, and middle school teacher. Teaching, as I said, 7th grade world history. Concurrent co-chair, ISTE Virtual Environments and Online Learning Networks. That's a little Photoshop magic I put together for the first announcement when we started going into the Roman unit in our world history. Cool. Quick details about the most recent, I'm watching the clock here. Quick detail about the most recent where I am kind of thing. I was very happy teaching kindergarten through 4th grade technology lab. Any lower school tech people in here? Do you love it? I loved it. I did that for 11 years after 3 years at the same school teaching 3rd grade. And at an ISTE cocktail party in Denver, Colorado, on the veranda of my brother-in-law's historical register house, it's called Gray Gables, I got some people together, and this woman, anybody know who that is? Not a lot of ISTE folks here? She's the president of ISTE. At the time, she was the executive director for learning technologies of my school district. She walked up to my wife on this cocktail party veranda, got in her face and said, "I'm going to steal your husband." Luckily, Leanne knew what she was talking about. She wanted me to get together with public schools after 14 years in private schooling sector. And I weighed it. I saw 352 kids in the classroom a week in my lower school technology lab. Great kids, I loved them all. 83,000 students in the school district. The options that we were going to make up after researching them could benefit all of those students over time and for years to come. So I decided to quit, and I walked into Vince Durnan's office, a little ahead of myself here, walked into Vince Durnan's office, who's the director of university school, and I told him what I'd been suggested that I do, and he said, probably the kindest words he ever said to me, "Okay, we won't sue you." Because I did have a contract to teach in 2 weeks. So we made it up. We started from the very beginning, and we were in a point where New York is kind of here. In 2010, it was illegal in Tennessee to have a virtual school. So what happened, and this may help you guys, is that 8 of the largest counties' school district superintendents banded together and lobbied the legislators to pass what came to be called the virtual school law, which allowed virtual schooling. And a key element of that is to allow virtual schools to grant diplomas. We're the only virtual school in Tennessee that does grant diplomas because we're the only public virtual school. All the others are programs attached to other places. And I understand you've got a thriving and growing online learning option here, and I want to learn more about that while I'm here. So we made it up, and our innovative model was to purchase course content. I understand you're having your teachers design course content for yours. Where'd she go? So we decided to purchase the content, which was forwarding the model at that time. At that time, virtual schools leased content. So they kind of leased seats from the providers. But we wanted to purchase the content with licenses for upgrade and perpetuity. And we wanted to hire our own teachers. And we wanted to hire adjunct teachers or part-time teachers. So full-time teachers in the classroom could do this as well as retired people. We've got a big pool of retired teachers. And so that happened. And then when we were first started, a coordinator was hired and I was hired. So there were two of us. We had a senior secretary and we started going to town and we got recognized as a school. We got a school number for the state and we had a semester, and then the coordinator quit. And for 3 months until they found an executive principal, all I was doing was this. And actually, during that period was the time I created performance concerns, and I'll tell you a little more about that in just a minute. But that's a key element of our program. Dr. James Whitty came on board in about this time in 2012, and he's been with us since, and he brought a quantum leap to what we do. He brought a sense of design and a sense of a real key connections with the state for policy and procedures. And we enacted a whole bunch of stuff that was approved by the school board. And the main advice I can give you, if you're working on your virtual school, who out there is working on a virtual school? If you're thinking about working on it, thank you. There you are. Never say it's done. So I have two more. This is a little commercial here. I want to throw in two more resources. One is a little story about how in third grade, when I was teaching third grade my first year, I created this treasure map, and it was on that accordioning paper that went through dot matrix printers, and I burned the edges. I don't know why banners and ancient artifacts always have burned edges, but they seem to. I put it in a box and buried it in the playground, and I took our third graders out for recess after one of them found the treasure map. We found this banner, and the conversation we had in the classroom, was probably the most engaging conversation I've ever had with students, as we tried to understand why is this important. And it's important because if you can do both of them at once, you're living right. If you do one to the exclusion of the other, you're not. So the second part of my little interlude, I don't know if you're familiar with the Jason Foundation. You can read these statistics up here. I won't read them to you, but teenage suicide is one of the most important things we need to have in our consciousness. As a teacher of a former third grader who took her life last year, our teachers in our district are required to go through this training once a year. And there are, I think, 4 modules. We can pick the one we want to go through, but we need to have that in the forefront of our consciousness.
The country needs less high mistakes, Timber. The country demands bold, persistent experimentation. It is common sense to take a method and try it. If it fails, admit it frankly and try another. But above all, try something. The millions who are in want will not stand by silently forever while the things to satisfy their needs
are within easy reach. 1932, at a commencement speech. Those words ring really, really true today. Another great article, School is a Prison and Damaging Our Kids. It's worth a read because it takes does a balanced approach to that. And I don't want to claim that, all schools are prisons. That's certainly not the case. But anything we can do to keep that in our minds, more the better. So really quickly now, 10 traits. I want to have time for questions because I hope I've spurred some of those. Thanks for tweeting, Andreas. Okay, the driving questions for our work always come down to stakeholders. And it's not just the students, it's primarily the students, but we're a service organization. We perform public service. And it's incumbent upon us to do it the best we can. I'm preaching to the choir here, I know that. I'm not listening, don't mean to spank anybody here. So, luckily, I'm not going to give you death by PowerPoint and read all of these things, but we are the first virtual school in the world to adopt the Academy's model. Anybody using NCAC, National Career Academy Coalition standards in New York? Nobody in this room? This program has turned our schools around in 5 years. Essentially, it's small learning communities who progress through high school, taking even their general education classes as a cohort, but with a theme. And we pass by your center where you have hospitality classes and that sort of thing. We have hospitality career academies within schools. My career academy is business and marketing because that just seemed to be low-hanging fruit for us, but I want to have a computer science one as well. Many schools have up to 4 academies. You know, there's lots of kids, and they have to be small learning communities. So those things are all up there for you to check out later. We are one of the highest achieving virtual schools in Tennessee. We can play the testing game, and we play it well. We were recently Advanced Ed accredited. Anybody ever go through accreditation process? The face you made when you raised your hand says it all. It's a painful, painful process, but the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools uses Advanced Ed to do their training or their accreditation, and you spend months compiling documentation, right? And you have to share it with them so they can pre-read it before they get there. A team of 3 members comes in, they validate everything, they have interviews with students, interviews with all the stakeholders. And did you get your accreditation?
Yes, we did.
And that was through?
JCO is the name.
Okay. So it's important for schools to be able to demonstrate at a glance that they're doing things right, and your school must be doing things right because you're accredited. Advanced Ed was, I'm bragging here, but Advanced Ed was so impressed with us after this review that in the review they said our numbers were so high on their scales, we were a statistical anomaly. And they were impressed enough to ask me and Mr. Terry to go out on external review teams. I'm going on one next week to Maynard, Massachusetts. So we're here to help you guys. If you're working on virtual learning, virtual schools, we want to be a resource kind of for everybody. And as far as I know yet, we don't charge for it. Our vision is leading the field of virtual education with innovation and creativity while inspiring V students. We V everything, by the way. You'll see that on the branding piece. To become stewards of their own education, lifelong learners, excited about the future of education. So the number 2 characteristic is getting students on board to virtual learning. And we do that with a very thorough process, a student application preview, interview process. We interview with the parents and the child. We have a student orientation. We have a Blackboard. We use Blackboard. Anybody use Blackboard? It's like Moodle with a price tag. And so we use Blackboard. The district purchased Blackboard, which, believe you me, is a high price tag. And we use that among our courses, we have a Virtual School 101, which is the first course any student takes, and it's within Blackboard, so it's sort of meta learning. They kind of learn how to do things while learning how to do things. And then last of all, it's very important to identify kids who don't have the self-motivation to get started. So after the first week, we contact and offer support and concern, and after 2 weeks, they are transitioned back into their school's own choice.
Hello, and welcome to the MNPS Virtual School. This video is about the announcements page, the first page you'll see after selecting a course. The announcements page consists of 2 important parts. 1, the virtual school contact information, and 2, announcements from your course. This might include important information, your announcements for the week, and teacher contact information. Please be sure to check the announcements page every week. Thank you.
So we have 8 of these types of videos inside the Virtual School 101 course. Very short, discreet, how to do one thing. So I want to talk about branding. If once you get your virtual school going, which I know you're going to do, I know there's a virtual program going, but a school's a different animal. Once you get it going, you have to brand yourself. There's a marketing element. You have to separate yourself from what's out there currently because there's a lot of misconception. The commercial virtual school, they call themselves a public virtual school, is not. They descended upon a remote county in Tennessee the day the virtual school law passed, took over Union County schools, and I'm sorry it failed miserably because they didn't have the kind of support that we built into our work. So we've got 3 word associations we repeat incessantly: individualized, dynamic, and empowering, and those were group decided. And we are Tennessee's first highest achieving virtual school since 2011. And that gets more impressive as the years go on. Here's a little bit about the academies I wanted to share with you. The district created videos, very brief. You may stand, you may dance, you may tweet. Virtual world. Ooh. Oh boy.
Hey, I'm Jason. Welcome to Virtual School, Nashville, Tennessee.
Hi, and I'm Caleb, and I've been studying here for over a year now, and I love it. But you may be confused. Why is there a virtual tour for a virtual school in a building?
Well, it's easy to explain. We're at the best of both worlds. You can go have class in a coffee shop or even a library, or you can just have it here on your own schedule.
Well, we'll get to that later. Let's go look at what learning looks like in virtual school.
All the students at Virtual School work at their own pace, a pace according to the pacing guide. Keeping up with the pacing guide means we are attending school. If we ever fall behind, our teachers are there to help us whenever we need it.
I'm full-time and all of my classes are held online via Blackboard. As we work through class modules, we connect with teachers and classmates with phone, text, email, Instant Messenger, Google Hangouts, Skype, and even Zoom's virtual world platform. This happens in all of our classes, which includes general education classes, unique electives not offered anywhere else, advanced placement, and even dual credit courses as well.
All MNPS virtual students are also a part of the Academy of Nashville. Here, students enroll in the Virtual Academy of Business and Marketing and choose to study either business management or marketing communication. Academy students also get experiential learning, just like in a brick-and-mortar school.
Like any other school in the district, we have an executive principal, a school counselor, and an enrollment specialist, as well as a team of teachers and a network of business partners.
These courses are free for all MNPS students who meet eligibility requirements in high school and in middle school. We even offer advanced credit for middle school and elementary school students. Please just keep in mind that enrollment is also based on seat availability.
As you see, and there are many opportunities for students at Virtual School who want to learn our digital world.
But the best part is you can get a full high school experience without ever stepping foot in the classroom, except mandatory support and testing.
For more information about Virtual School or any of the other academies, go to our blog or find us on Facebook or Twitter.
We hope you enjoyed our tour and find us online sometime. Bye.
Those kids wrote those scripts out with some support and memorized them without cue cards the morning they filmed this. So I think they did a great job. But that tells you a little bit more about the academies. And we have a prom, and we took some kids caving last May. We have field trips that get the kids together. The fifth trait of a highly effective virtual school is a professional learning community. And I'm going to share another video with you real quick. Welcome to a brief overview of our virtual school learning community. A one-stop shop for all of us, updated frequently with resources, support, and inspiration. The platform primarily hosts these links, and clicking on the first link below home will go out to Our private shared spreadsheet, including school contact information and columns that change weekly that B teachers use to report performance concerns. Clicking on the second link, B teachers arrive at general information and external links at the top, then semester-specific links to current documents and resources. Scrolling down, you can see that the earlier resources are populated blog-like. And scrolling down further, you'll see a section we call Tips and Tricks, submitted by V teachers as examples of best practices in online teaching. This page contains timesheets that each contain work detail and work deliverables specific to each pay period. We have a suggestion box, a contact log for intervention or any other communication, threaded discussion boards, organization messages for emailing individuals or groups, and the announcements tool is most useful for delivering and archiving targeted or whole community announcements. So that's sort of Blackboard social media. That's about as far as we can get, but it really does build lasting resources for teachers and immediate access to resources that need to be shared. Research-based instructional strategies, of course, project-based learning, and our principal has developed these questioning strategies based on Bloom's taxonomy, and that document will be available to you too without the colored background. But we want our teachers to construct feedback questions using these higher order questions. We want them thinking, we want them critically thinking, we want them to process what they've learned. There's a great video here, but I think I'm over videos. This is a video put together by the school district about how we use data, and I can tell you that we use it for formative work and intervention and targeted learning assignments for each individual child based on their responses in their assignments and in their standardized testing. And that's how we've gotten to be the highest achieving virtual school in Tennessee, is by using that data. I'm not dissing data. Did I just say that? I'm not dissing data. Data is very useful when it's used correctly. And we have coaching labs, and we also reward teachers for successfully raising a child's performance level. Is that legal? I don't know. Weekly performance concerns. Every week a teacher goes into their grade book and reports if a child is 5%, 10%, or 15% or more behind in the class. And we process those. With a 5%, teacher is required to call the student and the parent and express concern. If a student's 10% or more behind in the course, a letter goes out from our school counselor, the young lady you saw in the video, who, by the way, just last week was awarded Counselor of the Year in the school district, among the 237 counselors in the school district. So they get a letter from her, and then at 15% or more behind, they're in danger of being truant because we have had to equate performance with attendance. Like any other state school, we have to report attendance to the state. Well, guess what? They don't attend. But they do perform, and so we've parsed out the assignments and pacing guides, and that's how we tell if a student is working and progressing through the course. If they're not, they're in danger of being removed from the school and transitioned back. Number 9, we're almost there. Academic integrity is the key issue for online schooling. Is Uncle Carl doing the work? So we, as I mentioned earlier, we address this with proctored exams and clear protocols for students violating plagiarism. We use Safe Assign. Anybody use that? Turn it in. Do you use that in your classes? Every student who submits a constructive response statement in our Blackboard has their Safe Assign, has their paper submitted to Safe Assign. And the teacher gets a report with a percentage of matches found through a massive database, including the good old internet. It's very interesting. And we've had sort of a little more of this than ever this semester. We've got a whole pocket of kids taking one course in a high school, and they seem to have a preference for sharing. I guess I'll say it that way. So we have massive student handbooks that we create and recreate every semester because we're changing so much, and policy changing, procedures changing, and we want to make sure that that's clear from the very first. But guess what? They don't really read those. So we present them live in orientations, and we try to just sort of reiterate as much as possible. You know, expectations must be clear. The lead V-teacher structure, and I've got a video for this one too, but I'm not going to show it to you because I want to ask questions. Every week, on a different day of the week, the V-lead teacher and his colleague, the other V-lead teacher, Michael Terry, deep dives into every course shell. And I have 32 course shells that I do this in. And I look for 24-hour turnaround and grading, 72-hour turnaround and grading, 24-hour response to questions, higher order feedback, and I paste examples in my little report spreadsheet so that the executive principal can see. And we use this for future hiring as well as for praising teachers who are doing it well and sharing their example with other teachers. It is mind-crushingly boring to do this, but it's also extraordinarily necessary. We have learned that what gets checked gets done, and that's not just with students. I'm skipping that. To my concluding thoughts. We're done. So virtual schooling comes in all shapes and sizes, and what's being built here in New York is not a school. It's a program, and it's got lots of kids already, and it's helping kids. That's the most important part. At my school, we have kids I have a kid who's a full-time fashion model who splits her time between Mexico and California. I have a full-time motocross athlete. We graduated Hank Williams Jr.'s daughter, our first year's program. So that's one element. We have baby mamas. We have young mothers and young fathers who are supporting their families. We have kids who just would rather be out making a living than sitting in a seat 6.5 hours a day, 5 days a week, 180 days of the school year. They may also move faster. They can't move slower, but we have students who finish 2 half-credit courses in a period block in the course of a semester, and those students are really aiming to graduate early, like my son did. And by the way, that's my son. The most important point I probably want to make to you guys today is that virtual learning is not going to replace a teacher with a computer. It'll replace a classroom with a computer program classroom, but highly qualified teachers who are good at what they do, and I will put a little plug in, our teachers say they know their children better here, working in an online setting, than they do in the classroom. And the DBAs are part of that. I mean, how often do you sit down with a child and have a 10 or 15-minute conversation about the unit you just went through? Every child in the classroom. So they'll always be necessary, and the programs like the one I mentioned earlier, who try to pack 200 kids to a teacher, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the state of Ohio, it was discovered that they were packing 1,500 students to a teacher at one point. Those programs have failed and failed miserably. And just like it says on this slide, when it's done wrong, it can be a travesty of the highest magnitude. And I don't blame people for distrusting it. But if you'll come and look at what we've done and what's being done with the program here, and open up your minds, the state of Tennessee just yesterday re-ratified the 5-year virtual school law. And that's because we made arguments like this. So, Frankie D. Roosevelt there, try something different. Make mistakes. And then I've got this. I just want to recommend this book, Sex, Drugs, Einstein, and Elves. Very interesting read. But this is around about the message of Arroway in the movie Contact. And Einstein is to avoid where the path leads and to go instead where there is no path and blaze a trail. Because you know what? It's fun. Part of modeling that it's okay and it's important and it's worth it to grow up is modeling that adults can have fun. I hope I've done some of that with you guys today. Boom.